The door that shouldn't exist. Mark had always loved old houses, their creaking floors and whispering walls. When he found a century-old Victorian home at an unbelievably low price, he didn't hesitate to sign the lease. The landlord, an elderly man with shaking hands and tired eyes, handed him the keys with a final warning. "There's a door in the basement. It's locked. Don't try to open it. Ever." Mark laughed. "What's behind it?" The landlord's eyes darkened. "Nothing you want to see." Chapter 1. The House and the Door. The house was everything Mark had dreamed of: high ceilings, grand windows, and antique charm. But from the moment he stepped inside, an unease settled in his bones. The air was heavy, charged with something unseen. The basement was colder than the rest of the house. A single dim light bulb flickered overhead. And there it was, the door. Unlike the rest of the house, which had been well maintained, the door was different. The wood was blackened, warped, and covered in deep scratches, as if something had tried desperately to get out. The lock was ancient, rusted, but intact. Mark's curiosity burned. Why was the landlord so afraid of this door? That night, as he lay in bed, he heard it. Tap, tap, tap. The sound came from below, from the basement. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Dark. Over the next few nights, the tapping continued. It grew louder. Sometimes it sounded like nails scraping against wood. One evening, Mark put his ear against the basement floor, and he heard a whisper. "Let me out." He jumped back, heart hammering. It had to be a trick of his imagination. Old houses made noises, right? But then something else happened. The locked door had changed. The scratches were deeper. The wood looked more warped. And the rusted lock, it was cleaner, as if someone or something had been touching it. Chapter 3. The key. Mark became obsessed. He searched the house for a key, checking every drawer, every cabinet. Finally, in the attic, hidden inside a rotting wooden box, he found it. A heavy iron key, ice cold to the touch. That night, as the tapping turned into banging, Mark made a decision: he was going to open the door. Chapter 4. What lies beneath the basement felt colder than ever. The air smelled of damp earth and something rotten. He held his breath, inserted the key, and turned it. The lock clicked. The banging stopped. For a long moment, silence. Then the door creaked open, revealing absolute darkness. A deep, endless void. The air shifted, like something exhaling after years of waiting. A whisper inches from his ear. "You shouldn't have done that." Chapter 5. The shadow. Mark staggered back as a shape emerged from the darkness. A tall, skeletal figure with hollow black eyes and a twisted grin. Its skin was stretched too tight over its bones. It stepped forward, dragging long, clawed fingers along the doorframe. Mark tried to run, but the door slammed shut behind him. The basement light flickered, casting erratic shadows. The creature moved unnaturally fast, its head twitching as it laughed. A dry, rattling sound. "I've been waiting." Mark bolted up the stairs. The creature followed. He barely made it to his bedroom, slamming the door shut. His heart pounded as he pressed against it, listening. Silence. Had it gone? Then a whisper. "Inside Naam, the room. You let me out." Chapter 6. No escape. Mark didn't sleep. He sat in the corner, gripping a fireplace poker, staring at the door. He could feel it, watching. At dawn, he packed his bags. He had to get out, but when he reached the front door, it wouldn't open. The windows, sealed shut. His phone, dead. Then he heard it. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming up the stairs. A voice taunting, "There's nowhere left to run." Chapter 7. The final choice. Mark ran to the basement. Maybe, just maybe, if he locked the door again, he could trap it. But the basement was empty. The door, gone. In its place was a wall, as if the door had never existed. A whisper, right behind him. "Now you belong to me." The lights went out, and Mark screamed. Epilogue. A month later, the landlord returned. The house was silent, empty. But in the basement, something had changed. A door had appeared again, blackened, warped, covered in deep scratches, and from behind it, tap, tap, tap.